Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. It's another Thursday morning. It's another Thursday morning men's league, I guess. I always find that funny with, the Club Pro guy thing, and I play on Thursday nights. Kind of wish I played in his league, but I don't. So before I get into the podcast today, I want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by Titleist AVX golf balls. So if you haven't hit the AVX, you know the Pro V1, you know the Pro V1X. The AVX is kind of the third sibling in that group, made from same super high premium materials, same urethane in the cover, but it is definitely a softer ball, lower launching, lower spinning, and it's crazy long. I remember when I first hit it a couple of years ago, I was shocked at how long it went. Definitely, like I said, out of the three, it's the lowest launching. It'll spin the least for most players. But it's definitely a fun golf ball to play. It's definitely super premium, super high quality. I know it doesn't quite get the same love that Pro V1 and Pro V1X gets in terms of, what people talk about. But the Pro V1X, if it's something, or the AVX, if it's something where you're looking for a lower launching golf ball, lower spinning, but still want a good soft feel, and you want that Titleist quality and consistency, the AVX is definitely something that can help. So, like I said, try it out. Like I said, I was super impressed with how long it was, because it is crazy long. So, and it still has good feel around the green. So, I know it's the lowest spinning ball, but it still will check up and have some control around the greens as well. So go to Titleist.com, check out the AVX, and it could be a great ball for you. So check it out. It, like I said, I was a huge fan of it. I liked it. I think we had a bunch of them. The original Two Guys Talking Golf podcast, I think Tursky and I, or whatever, I think Titleist gave us a bunch of, I think they gave us a bunch of dozens of Pro V1X, Pro V1, and AVX with our little logo at the time on it. And I played a good amount of those. So it was pretty cool. So hopefully everybody's having a good day. Like I said, another Thursday. I'm excited for the league tonight. Excuse me, geez. I'm recording early in the morning, but I'm excited for league tonight. I've got something cool that I've been really excited to try out. One of these things that it's actually not a club, but I've really wanted to try one out for years. And to give you a hint, I won't be carrying my bag tonight, and my bag will be motorized. So that's kind of cool. I'm super excited to try out an electric cart, and I've got one here. I got it set up, got it all charged, but I'm super excited to try this thing out, because out at Bandon, I love playing with a caddy. It was great. You just get to walk the course. You don't have to carry your bag. It was super fun. I don't have quite the fun. Oh, I don't belong to a club. I don't belong to a club that has caddies, and I don't think my income level supports me playing with a caddy every time I go play. So all those things add up to, this is about the closest I'm going to get to playing with a caddy. So super excited about that. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping the weather looks good. I'm just hoping that something doesn't pop up and spoil my Thursday like it did, a couple weeks ago. So. But I do have clubs to talk about. I know a bunch of guys have asked. I posted them on Instagram. The first thing we'll get into, I've been trying to get these stupid things out on the course, on the range, anything I could do. I finally did. So yes, I finally got out the PXG Gen4 0311 ST. So yeah, I know. I posted a bunch of photos on them. I said they look great, and they really do. But yeah, the Gen 4, these are the ST, which is kind of the blade, and it is, I believe, a one-piece forged blade, and it's triple forged, as PXG calls it, for better consistency, better feel, all that. It has the typical PXG weights in the back. It's got the one big round one, which is kind of what they've gone to in irons lately. And then four, two on the right, two on the left, little typical PXG screws that you're used to. Whole back is milled, so the whole back is CNC milled. The faces on all the irons is milled as well. So it's definitely a quality piece. You can definitely tell they put some effort, some work, everything into it. But they are, these are, there's basically in the Gen 4 line, you have. Basically you have the XP, which is the biggest, easiest to hit, and then you go down to the Gen 4P, which is a little more compact. That's kind of the bread and butter iron for most players. Pretty thin top line still, a little bit of offset, but generally, a pretty easy club to hit. And then there's the T, which is kind of more of the player's distance irons, got a little hotter face. and it's a little more compact, shorter heel to toe, thinner top line, all that. And then the ST, which as PXG labels it, the Ultimate Mastery Iron. So yeah, these are definitely more of a blade type iron, definitely smaller. I would say when I set them down, compared to they're definitely small compared to my ZX7s, my Srixon ZX7s. I would say this definitely has more of a T100 type size to it, maybe even slightly smaller than that. It's got a pretty squared off and sharp toe, which isn't something that I truly love the look of him in an iron, but very minimal offset, really thin top line, and they actually vary the blade lengths. So they in like the 3, 4, 5 iron, the blade lengths are actually much I wouldn't say substantially, but let's just call it they're longer. And that's supposed to add a little playability, also enhance the look a little bit. But the 3 iron is I mean, it's here, it's in my hand, but I have not actually hit it. The thing is it's I wouldn't call it a butter knife, but you could definitely cut some food with it. It it definitely has it's small, but like I said, a little longer heel to toe, and then progressively as the irons get shorter, like you get into like the 8-9 pitching wedge, gap wedge, those blade lengths get even shorter. So heel to toe, they become even shorter. So just for that look, keep them small and keep them pleasing to the eye. But then the 3, I think it's the 3, 4, and maybe 5 iron have a little pocket almost milled into them, so they move more weight down. So it's a little easier to launch the 3, 4, 5 iron. I mean, I don't know how much weight that truly actually moves, but it is there and it's meant to do that. Again, I have not hit the 3 iron, so I don't know. I need to. I was going to bring it out one of the 9 holes I played and just play it off the tee. And then I was like, man, if I need to hit a shot off the turf, I don't think there's any way I'm going to be able to elevate this thing. So I left it at home. I didn't actually play it. But I've been playing the 4 through pitching wedge. I've been throwing the gap wedge in there a little bit just because they sent a gap wedge with the set. And, as I've said before, and for most of you out there, I've kind of been playing a lot more of a traditional sand wedge in my pitching wedge even. So I was like, you know what, let's just bring it out and just play the set. And when I go play St. Clair Shores, I hit a lot of pitching wedge shots. So I was like, let's, make sure both those wedges are in the bag. And that way I can kind of, definitely know I'm going to hit, on most holes, I'm going to hit an iron shot with these things. So I finally did get out. I played 18 with them. I played 2 9-hole rounds. I played, and I got it to the range with them as well. So, and again, in the range, I forgot about the 3 iron and left it at home. But yeah, so the first thing I'll just say is they're crazy soft. They feel stupid good. They're probably one of the softest irons I've ever hit. They just are buttery smooth. I mean, I was playing a Srixon Z-Star XV basically both times I played, and honestly, they are, even with that ball, which is slightly firmer than say the Z-Star, slightly firmer than a Pro V1. I mean, if you played a Chrome Soft or something like that, I mean, these things got to feel crazy smooth, but they are probably one of the softest irons I've ever hit. They when you hit them solid, hit them in the center, they just, I mean, it's just a thud. The ball just goes. There's like absolutely no click to it. It's really impressive how good these things feel on center shots. I was really shocked. I wouldn't say crazy, but I was pretty taken away because I've hit a bunch of PXG stuff before. I played the original. I've hit the Gen 1 Ps, the Gen 2 Ts. I've hit the Gen 3s. I've hit and now hitting the Gen 4s. These things are, like I said, crazy soft. And, from what I understand, they're just a single piece forging. There's nothing there in terms of foam inside of them or anything like that to dampen anything or change the sound. So from whatever they're made out of, whatever steel that they're built out of, they are crazy soft. And even with the screws and all that stuff, which people say, can adjust feel and all that, Dr. Bob's team has worked some magic. Shots away from center, you do notice a little bit of click. You'll notice a little firmness, and that's rightfully so. I mean, being a blade, anytime you really miss the center substantially, let's call it more than just outside of a, quarter of an inch, something like that, you're definitely going to feel it, and you do notice a difference. I mean, it's still soft, but you do get a click. You do get a firmer feel to it. I mean, you know that you miss center on these things. They're actually pretty responsive. Like I said, I mean, if you really do miss it, kind of like low and toe action, which is, I've done that, but I've also missed low heel. You definitely can tell the difference. You can definitely hear the difference. I mean, it's instant, instant feedback of where you missed it, how you missed it, and it gives right from your hands. You hear it in your ears, all that. So, I mean, what people love about blades is kind of that responsiveness. They also love that buttery feel when you strike at center, and they love the ability to work the ball. These things offer all of that. Like I said, probably the softest. I'm probably going to say it a bunch of times because it was just true that they're probably are the softest irons I've ever hit. But yeah, the feel and sound is actually absolutely phenomenal. And that's through the set. I mean, down from gap wedge all the way up to 4-iron. It's kind of the same thing. You don't get the 4-iron, I noticed, and I think it's a lot of 4-irons. I think it's just the length of the shaft, and maybe for me, but I noticed just, a hair of vibration to say a 4 and a 5-iron compared to anything shorter. This is the same way. I think it's just the irons in general for me. It's just something I know that I don't know if it's just me or what. But again, hitting the 4-iron dead flush feels amazing. Hitting a pitching wedge, dead flush, same thing, feels awesome. Like I said, I need to go out and actually hit them with like a chrome soft because I wonder if they almost get too mushy at that point where you lose some feel. But anything with like a tour ball, like I said, if you were playing like a chrome soft XLS, you're not gonna have any problem, anything like that. Like I said, I was playing a Z-Star XV for my rounds, and the feel, like I said, was absolutely phenomenal. So performance-wise, they actually perform really good. I was a little nervous. I mean, take them out. They're slightly weaker lofts than I play. They're based out of a 46 degree pitching wedge, and I think they're a little weaker at the top than I typically play. So normally I'd be they don't even have the specs on the site at the moment. It's like broken, but I think I threw the pitching wedge in my lofted line machine. It came out to 46. And I think I threw one other club in there. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like a 7-iron. And it was definitely like a degree weaker than my ZX7s. So I figured these things are, and there's no thin face, no technology built into them really in terms of, for distance. So I kind of went out there. The first night I played, was I went out there and I kind of played everything. I played kind of a club up in a sense. So if I had, say a 155 shot, which was typically for me an 8-iron, maybe it was like a little bit uphill, or maybe it was slightly into the wind, I would definitely hit the 7, and instead of hitting like a choke down 7, I'd hit a full 7. And I noticed actually after like 3 or 4 holes that if I hit it well, I was definitely not losing much distance at all. There were a couple shots that I hit that one of them on 16 at St. Clair Shores, which if you know 16, it's like the #1 handicap, and the only reason for that is that it's long. It's not a super challenging hole. And I hit a decent drive. Like I said, it was a little into the wind, and I think I had 153. And I think this is the shot that kind of the first one that really got me. And I sat there and I was just like a hair in the rough. Like by like 3 inches. And I was just like, all right, 153. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, these things are weak. Let's go 7 instead of 8. And I hit a 7, and I didn't really flush it. Like I did miss it a little bit low towards the heel, and it still actually got up in the air really well, which I was impressed with. That was kind of shocking. And then I hit it a little bit right of the like the pin was pretty much in the center, a little bit right. I hit it right, and there's a mound that's there that's kind of like from a bunker. And it hit just over that, and I thought, all right, I'll just be in the rough right there. Like I'll maybe make it to pin high if I get a good bounce off the hill. Be fine. I'll go chip it. No, it like hit and went like over the green. Now part of it could be hill influence, so I'm not taking that out of it. But I was amazed that it got to pin high because it needed to get to pin high to hit that hill and go back. And it was like over the green, halfway down, and unfortunately under a tree. So that made chipping it back on an absolute nightmare. But just the fact that hitting it a little low heel out of the rough, which I know can kind of influence a little bit of a fly or lie, but how far it carried was really kind of shocking to me. I kind of had the same thing on hole 4, where I hit, again, I hit a drive there is not much. You hit a hybrid out there and then you knock a, 8-iron, 9-iron, depending on the wind and all that, onto the green. And the same thing, I had like a, debating between an 8 and 9. I went with 8, and that green's got like a little dip in the middle of it where a lot of times they stick the pin. And I hit the shot there, and that was just out of the fairway. And again, hit it to the back of the green. And I looking at it now, it's like, man, I probably should have hit 9-iron there, whatever. But they definitely are not as weak and short as I thought they were going to be. They just did. I mean, and even on stuff where you slightly miss it, you can still get away with some shots on these that I was really shocked, because I figured I'm going to go out and play these things. They're blades. You guys know I'm not a huge blade guy. I don't care. It does. I'd love to play a set of blades. Sure, great. But my game's not there, and it probably never will be, and I'm fine with that. Like, I'm good with it. And I was shocked at how well these things performed for even, I guess, in those 18 holes, I was hitting it pretty good, and even on the range, I was swinging decent, but shots that like I said, you hit low, you hit off, just slightly off center, you can still get away with them, and I think, you don't have to be, I don't think, for these, a scratch player to play them. I think, again, if you go get fit, which you should do, but, especially at the price of these, you should definitely go get fit. But just the fact that, a guy like me who's a terrible 9 can get away with some shots and still get around and still have some fun with these. Now, will they go in the bag, like, permanently? I just don't think so. I mean, maybe if I was to, like, combo set it up and do something like the STs here and then throw maybe some Ps or some T's at the higher end with maybe a P4 iron or something like that, maybe I could pull that off. I think these in the short irons would be no problem for me. But anything in the 5-6s, it's I don't have a ton of those shots that aren't off tees at St. Clair Shores, and I just don't know if I would hit them consistently enough to make me play these all the time. I really need to hit him again on like a bad day and see what happens. I'm going to take him out again today and see what happens. Just to see if today's a bad day, we'll see how it goes. Because I know what ZX7s will do on a bad day. I can kind of get around the course. That's fine. These, if it just beats me up, who knows? It could be a really long day. But these things here, I mean, in terms of workable, definitely workable. I thought they were kind of, and maybe again it was more my swing because I'm a crappy 9. But I found these things to really be more neutral to fade bias. Like, I didn't hit a ton of shots left, and again, it took me a little time to get used to aim it at the target, and I'm going to hit it at the target or slightly right. I didn't really get crazy, my usual over-the-top smother it left shots. I didn't have many of those at all, and when I was hitting it decent, everything was a little right of the target, which I think for me is a thing that I just aim it more. I aim it right of the target because I usually miss it left. And these things were going dead straight to, having a little bit of fade on them, which was really nice. I mean, it's very tough for me because I'm so used to hitting it so far left. And when I don't do that, it's very hard for me to adjust to it. But again, like I other than, a couple swings where it was just me coming over that top and having a bad club path and hitting it left, on standard, pretty good shots, I was hitting it pretty straight to slightly right of target. And it wasn't really, I wouldn't even call it like it was fading that way. It was just starting off right and just going right at the target. I mean, it was one of those things where, it really did kind of help a little bit of taking some of that left side out of play for me, which was pretty nice. I mean, launch on him is actually pretty, I would call it pretty mid to mid high. It wasn't crazy low. I was expecting it. And these have Modus 120s, Modus Tour 120s in them, which is, Modus is kind of the lowest launching option, really. They're kind of mid-high. I thought they launched really similar, maybe a hair lower than my ZX7s. Not a ton, but definitely a little bit flatter than that. They definitely had some hold on the greens. You definitely had some spin with them. They would hit the green and stop. Nothing really released. Even in the longer irons, and the longest iron I hit into a green was a 6-iron. And even that, the amount of release was pretty minimal. I mean, I'd call it a couple feet. And that was it. Anything kind of lower than that would hit and definitely stop. Had a couple, 9-irons pitching wedges that even hitting, not 100% flush would hit and actually and pull back a little bit. So those type of things were great with these. Turf interaction is pretty good. They're definitely, they don't have near as much bounce. I mean, it's not a ZX7 sole. It's not that Tour V sole. So they definitely had a little more dig. And to be 100% honest, it was super soft. What is it, last week and the week before? We had so much rain, all that. It was crazy soft. I mean, it's always soft in Michigan, but it was really soft. So I'm not going to blame that a ton on these, but they did take a little bigger divot than, even my T100s, I would say, a little bit more of a divot than that. They just, and like I said, I think a little bit of that is due to the conditions, but turf interaction was good. They just they get into the ground a little bit more than some of the other irons I've been typically playing, but nothing that's crazy bad or anything like that. And I think if you're more of a neutral swinger, it'll have no problem. And if you're somebody who consistently hits the ball first before you get into the ground, it doesn't matter anyway. But turf interaction is pretty decent. They get in and out of the rough really well. I mean, especially because they are such a compact blade. The rough around here has been kind of long just because with the rain, they haven't been able to cut quite as much. So you'll get a little hosel grab with any club. So, I mean, anything out of the deep stuff will pull a little left. But overall, typical rough conditions, it actually gets through the rough really well. Easy to get down on a ball that's sitting down. It's easy to get that, that leading edge a little sharper. You can get down under it, get it up in the air, get it out with pretty much no problem. And with the amount of spin they put on the ball, really, I mean, the amount of release out of the rough isn't crazy. I mean, you'll hit and it'll release a little bit. But even compared to, say, like my ZX7s, which those, even out of the rough, I'll get a little more. These will have a little less release than that. Out of the rough, I mean, what is it? I think I hit a 7-iron from, I don't know what, I mean, whatever it was, distance-wise. And it was out of fairly deep rough. The ball was kind of sitting down. It was a little gnarly, but hit a great shot. Hit the green, and I think maybe at the most it released, 4 or 5 feet. I mean, it really wasn't a ton. It was kind of shocking because I was kind of expecting the ball to release a lot more, and it ended up only releasing a little bit, it ended up actually being a good shot. It actually was a better shot that only released that far, because had it released what I thought it was going to release, it probably would have rolled further back and I would have had a longer putt. But yeah, I mean, overall, they definitely do spin well out of the greens. And I think part of that is, it's got that milled face. It's got a little rougher texture on it. And, when it's a little damp and all that, it still does have some bite on the ball. And like I said, it spins really well. It's all about control with these things, and they definitely offer that. If you have a repeatable swing that you can control, or that the distances that you can control, you can hit the shots you want to, these are going to do that. And they're going to offer it at a super, super soft feel. The one knock I'll give to them is I don't love the gap wedge. I don't love the look of it. It's like I said, it's got a super sharp, kind of squared off toe, which I don't love the look of. And I found that, at least for me chipping, it felt like that face was a little hotter than, say, my Vokey, 50. I took both those things out. I was on the putting, the practice green, and just hitting little chip shots from basically a fairway lie to a pin that was probably, 20 yards away, just a little kind of bump it on the green, let it release out. And, excuse me, everything I hit with that little gap wedge from PXG, everything was long. I felt like the ball would just pop off the face and just go. And it had some check to it. I mean, it still did check up, but everything was long. I mean, I hit everything beyond the hole, where my 50 degree with my SM8 was distance control wise better for me. I mean, it was either right below the hole or closer to it in terms of the line. I mean, I wasn't dropping all of them in, but if you drew a line basically from the cup on both sides, I was closer to that line with the SM8. And like I said, the first couple shots I hit with it, I actually kind of said, like, wow, like that thing just jumped off the face and went. I think the first ball I hit went 25 feet past. I had to go over, and somebody else was putting and scoop my ball out of their line. But it was kind of amazing how far that first ball went, and then the whole time I was chipping with it was just dial it back a little, and I never had to do that with my SM8. And again, two different clubs, you have to get used to, especially short game stuff. Getting used to those type of shots is definitely a feel thing. But like I said, the gap wedge for me, I didn't love it. On full shots, it's great. If you have a full shot from 110, hey, for me that's my number with it. Great, it works perfect. Ball really, ball gets up in the air, ball goes, stops really well on the green. But those short little shots around the green, I used my gap wedge a lot for, especially that, if I'm just short of the green or I'm just off, and it's one of those all you need to do is pop it on the green and let it release out. I just never got used to the speed with the gap wedge. So for me, in this set, they sent 3 through gap wedge. I could cut out the 3-iron, probably the 4-iron, and then realistically, I mean, for me, I'd probably order like a 7 through 9, or maybe a 6 through 9, and then add some stuff at the top end, whether it's ST, whether it would be T, or something like that. But like I said, the gap wedge I didn't truly love for chipping. Like I said, full shots, it was perfectly fine. I think if you're a guy who, your gap wedge is typically only a full shot club, I think the gap wedge works really well. If it's something where your gap wedge is kind of that around the green shot shaping type of club, I don't know if you'll love it as much. Like I said, for me, I didn't like that the ball just, it seemed like it was hard to control. It seemed like it was really hot. And the whole time I kept thinking, dial it back. And I didn't love that. And again, I'd probably get used to it after a while, but just not something I'd love, just because I know that the club isn't staying in the bag anyway. But no, like I said, overall, just an really great set of irons. If you're in the market for some kind of blades, and you really just want to hit some super soft, blades that actually have a little bit of forgiveness. I mean, they're not bad. They're not going to totally beat you up in that category. These 0311 ST Gen4, these Gen4 0311 STs, God, it's a long name, are pretty darn good, man. And like I said, probably one of the softest irons I've ever hit, at least in recent memory. And there's something that were great to play with. Like I said, I kind of wish, it makes me wish that I really had the game for it, that I'd work on my game enough to get down to that level where I could play these things. But I don't think that's ever going to happen, unfortunately. But they were a blast. I'm super excited. I'm really excited I finally got to hit them. Like I said, I might take them out for kind of one last hurrah today before I bring them back to the office, because another guy definitely wants to hit them. He's a big PXG guy. So I got to bring him back in, and if he loves them, he may take them too. So like I said, they're not high on my list. Like I said, if I comboed them up, that'd be kind of cool. But I think right now, like I said, I'll bring them back after today and let some other guys hit them. But if you have a chance to go hit these things, definitely go hit them. Like I said, I think you'll be pretty amazed at how good they feel, and I think you'll be kind of amazed at how playable they are. They're not crazy, insane demanding. I mean, they're definitely demanding. I mean, you definitely got to hit close to center, but if you don't, you're going to be okay. So. Overall, like I said, really fun. I was glad I got to hit them, and the STs are, like I said, in terms of feel and softness, they're pretty darn legit. So that's all I've got for those. Like I said, excited to go play them again. But before we get into my next club, this episode also brought to you by Club Champion, and Club Champion's calling all levels of golfer to get a tour level clip fitting, no matter what your skill level is, at Club Champion. With more than 85 stores nationwide, it's never been easier to lower your scores through perfectly fitted custom equipment. Book now at clubchampionGolf.com. And when they say all skill levels, like, that's the one thing that I think that people don't realize, and I hear it so often, is, well, I'm not going to waste my money getting fit. I'm not good enough. And honestly, if you go talk to any fitter, and I don't care who it is, whether it's a Club Champion person, whether it's somebody else, whatever, and you ask them who benefits the most from a fitting, everybody says the non-scratch player. And the scratch players will be able to hit anything. I mean, then they'll be able to adjust a little bit and change their game a little bit to make something work. They say, like, the player who's the higher handicap player, the player that doesn't have that type of skill, like, those people benefit the absolute most from it. And so if you're somebody who is in that same camp of, well, I'm not really that good, honestly, fitting could actually improve your game even more than your buddy who's a scratch player or whatever. So definitely looking at getting fit. Like I said, I think it's just fun to do. I would love to do another fitting. I would love to go do another driver, or do a driver fitting, just to go hit a bunch of combos. I mean, I had fun when I did my iron fitting, just actually hitting different combos of stuff. Like, let's throw this shaft and this and whatever. I think it was like shortly after they'd got Oban steel shafts in, so we threw some of those. I mean, it was just, not only did we hit shots, we figured out what worked, and then it was just like, let's hit a couple cool combos. And maybe that's just because I'm a junkie guy, whatever, but I was drenched in sweat. I was dead tired, but I had a blast just hitting a bunch of stuff. So go check it out. If you're thinking about fitting, if you're on the fence about it, just go do it. It's definitely worth it, especially if you're going to buy something new. I mean, if you're going to spend the money, why not get fit? So the next club that I've got here is something that is definitely interesting, something that was different. I didn't quite expect it, I don't think, to hit this thing, or I didn't even kind of see it coming really, but basically hit the new Cleveland Launcher XL. So Cleveland, I remember back in the day, had the Launcher XL, and those heads were insane. I was working at a shop when those things came out, and I remember that those were just the absolute kind of bee's knees. It was the one that everybody kind of wanted. It was the one that, you know, if somebody was coming in and, I had to have a Titleist or I have to have a, whatever brand, the Cleveland Launcher and Launcher XL were definitely big time performers in terms of knocking a few of those customers away from their typical brand and moving them into a really good driver, a different head. I had a Launcher XL, both of which I had for short periods of time because I probably switched out with something else. But both heads really good. I remember I remember getting a Launcher. Was it just a Launcher or was it an XL? I don't remember. But anyway, it had that Graphiloid Pro Launch Red, which was kind of like the poor man's whiteboard, low launch, low spin. And I got like an 8.5 head. And I think I got it from a buddy of mine locally who I think he had it on the BST in Golf WRX. And I saw it and I was like, hey man, like you're getting rid of that. I'd love to, take it off your hands. He said, no problem, here you go. So we kind of met up at the local range, and I remember hitting it, and shortly after it was back on the BST because I hit it like no higher than 6 feet off the ground all the time. So it was definitely one of those, at the time, low spin, low launch, kind of just crazy combinations. But it was a hell of a driver. It was really good. So the new one came out. It's a little different. Back then, it was all about they had a little scoop back for weight and all that. This one here basically is set up to be a driver that's just fun to play. And it's kind of interesting. They make three different versions. So this is the XL. They make an XL Lite and then a XL Lite Draw. So they kind of have three heads. The Lite and the Lite Draw didn't really interest me. I kind of left them here. But I took the XL out, which is kind of the standard model. And it's a good looking head. I mean, it really has, to be 100%, it's got a little bit of kind of tailor-made look with the line on the top, but all matte black finish on the top. The bottom is pretty. I wouldn't call it crazy. It's got decent, it's got a decent look to it. It's got a pretty good fit and finish to it. If you set this thing down without any logos, anything like that, set it next to the Srixon driver, which is kind of the bigger brother, I guess. Quality-wise, I think these look pretty similar. It's missing a few of the little ridges and some of the the Srixon stuff says like rebound frame and some of that stuff on it, where this doesn't. But funny thing is, it actually has some of that tech built into it. So it's actually it's a big head. I mean, when you set it down, it's definitely it's long from face to back, and it's fairly long heel to toe as well. And then, like I said, when you set it down, it definitely, you can tell it's a decent size, which for me, I don't mind. I mean, I actually kind of like a bigger driver just because it makes me feel like I can hit it anywhere on the face and it's still going to go. But it's big. The MOI is basically 5,200. What is it? Grams per centimeter squared or whatever it is, which not many people kind of show that number off anymore. But yeah, 5,200 is the number for there, which is the highest Cleveland's ever made. And it actually does have the rebound frame in it, which was big in the Srixon driver, still is. It's big in the Srixon drivers, which is basically a secondary kind of flex spot, kind of behind the face a little bit, almost like a kind of a cup face type thing, where there's it's built-in flexibility there to help with with ball speed, and especially ball speed on mishits. So those there, so it's got some tech from its big brothers who are a little more expensive as well. This thing here is $399. Just stock. I think custom shafts could probably get you up there. But basically, it's even the XL has a little bit of counterbalancing in it, so it comes in at 45.75 inches, so 45 3/4 inches long, and it's got like an 8-gram counterbalance weight in the back, just so you can swing it a little bit faster. That's typically, that counterbalancing will add. They say it's going to add a little bit of control to it as well, but I think the big thing about that is making the head a little light, feel a little lighter, swing a little faster. I actually took the stock shaft out. It was a Project X Cypher 56 gram or something like that, and which I've just never had success with super light clubs. But the nice thing is that the Srixon tips fit in this head. Now they're not marked the same, so the markings on this one, it actually has the loft, so it goes from 9 degrees to 12 degrees, and the lofts are actually marked on the adapter. So when you put it in there, you can set it up whatever. And that's not the way Srixon does it. Srixons are more a flat setting, a -1, +1, whatever, and then there's the loft printed on the actual head. So I had to actually kind of move them around, and I found that I think in the standard flat position was basically 9 degrees on here, or close to it. So it was pretty close. Either way, when I set it down, I mean, it actually had a pretty good open face look to it at 9 degrees. And the shaft I had in there was a Fujikura Motore X F3 6X. So I had that in there, which actually plays a little shorter. So the swing weight on this was definitely a little light because that is like a 45. Now, with this Launcher XL, they actually do make they call it an accuracy version, and you can order it in short, so it would come in at 44 and 3/4 the length. So you can actually order it directly from Cleveland that way, and I think they actually toss the counterbalance weight out of the butt end, so you don't even have that in there, which is kind of cool. I mean, like I said, that option kind of to order stuff short like that is always pretty cool, and have it designed for that where, a lot of times if you just take a club off the rack, bring it home, cut an inch off it, then the swing weight's all jacked up and all that. But for them to actually offer it that way and make it something where, they know it's something that people want and offering it is pretty cool. So on this one here, it's, like I said, it's a pretty good looking club. Like I said, pretty matte black, not a ton going on the top, a little bit of, texture on the back, little kind of silver and blue line. But overall, it's a pretty good looking club. When you set it down, like I said, it's long face to back. And when you set it down in some of the settings, especially some of the higher lofted settings, the face does get a little shut. And I think, a lot of that, this is designed to be, this is designed to be the super forgiving, kind of fun to play driver. And the person who's super serious, super, the scratch handicap type person is probably going to look more to the Srixon side, just because of the shaping and all that. But it's like I said, it's pretty a pretty good looking club. They, in terms of loft, they actually make a 9, a 10.5, and a 12 degree head. But like at least my head, it's not marked anywhere on there. So I don't know if there's probably something to do with the actual loft on the face. But I know the adapter will go from 9 to 12 as well. So I don't know if maybe they're just presetting the shaft in there or what. But they, Cleveland did a great job. I think they know that the person who's going to buy this driver isn't crazy into adjustability, so they got a ton of stuff on their website about what does what and how to change it. But like I said, I took a Srixon shaft out, slapped it in here, fit perfectly, and off I went. So like I said, looks overall really good. It's got a pretty deep face. It's long, toe to heel, which is fine, but it's fairly deep. It's not, it's not wildly deep, but it's deep enough. It doesn't look like it's too shallow that you have to tee the ball lower or anything like that. And out on the course, it actually performed pretty darn well. I will say, I'll jump into it early. The sound is loud. It's definitely not the most quiet driver I've ever hit. Not the most muted driver I've ever hit. Even shots just dead flush had a loud kind of ting to it. It's an all titanium head, so it's got some ting to it. It's got some metallic sound to it. And the first shot I hit, I was, it kind of had a crack with a ting at the very end. And the first shot I hit actually was dead flush with it. But honestly, the ball flight definitely kind of high. I call it high mid. It's not, it's not as high as say a G425 Max. Excuse me. But it definitely is high. It's meant to launch, and in the marketing stuff, they said it's a mid-high launching head, easy to get in the air, and they're right. Even with that Motore X, which the F3 is kind of a mid-high launch as well, but still it's going to be more stout and stuff than that Project X Cypher that came in it. Still launches kind of high. It definitely gets the ball up in the air. I was glad I kind of went out there with that thing set in like what I think is kind of 9 degrees right out of the gate. Because, in a 10.5 or even a 12.5 head, I think I'd have to go to something like a Ventus Black or, a Mitsubishi Tensei 1K, something like that to bring the flight down. But that head and shaft combination actually seemed to produce a good amount of ball speed. The ball seems like it jumps off the face. I mean, it seems pretty hot. Well-struck shots go what seemed to be a pretty long ways. I would say when I played with it out there, St. Clair Shores, yeah, I was in pretty much a lot of similar spots that I'm at when I hit good drives with other drivers. So I think ball speed wise, this thing creates a ton of ball speed. I will just say, hitting into the wind, it does have a little rise, so I think it is a slightly, it's probably a higher launching, little spinnier head. So if you're somebody looking for the lowest spinning whatever, I mean, yes, again, you're probably going to move over more to the Strixon side, like the ZX7. But if you're somebody who's looking for something, easy to hit, super forgiving, you don't care about the spin number or whatever, I mean, this thing is going to be hard to beat, especially at $399 instead of, $499 and above for a lot of the other drivers. But yeah, I mean, like I said, hits a little high. Like I said, I call it mid-high. If you're somebody who's looking for a driver to kind of help you add a little trajectory to it, this thing's actually really good. Like I said, got a little bit of spin. I never noticed anything either downwind or no wind. Didn't really notice anything. The ball kind of went, up and out. The apex on it wasn't quite as flat as, say, some of the other drivers I've hit. It's a little more straight up and kind of came back down, but I never had where I hit a ball mark, had a ball mark and the ball sat next to it. Even as soft as it is out here, still, got some roll out of it. And like I said, well-struck shots are they go a long way. Mishit shots are actually really good. They stay on line really well. I mean, of course, anything. If you hit a shot that, for me, if you're going to hook it 2 fairways over, it's going to hook 2 fairways over. There's no stopping that. But for shots, I think that you miss just slightly outside the center and all that, they basically go pretty much straight. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of movement to them. I mean, excuse me. I mean, shots for me, especially that, whether I hit it a little high toe or kind of more down low heel, those were shots that still would find the fairway. And they were decently long. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like the longest mishit I've ever hit, but they actually went a pretty good ways, and they really did stay on line. Like I said, anything kind of missed, let's call it for the most part, inside the grooves, the outside grooves that nobody uses, but anything kind of in that area for the most part, that flat center. I mean, if you put an okay swing on it and you hit it there, it probably was going to find the fairway. It really did. I mean, it was a really stable head. You never felt like, I hit it off the toe and this thing was flying just, far right or anything like that. You never got a huge big toe hook out of it. Everything pretty much stayed in play if the swing was decent enough. And like I said, I mean, any swing, like I can hit it 2 fairways over left with no problem. It doesn't matter what driver you put in my hand, and that shot is still going to happen. But on shots that I think, a lot of players, especially slightly higher handicap players this is aimed at, I think they're going to get away with some shots that they normally wouldn't have, especially if they're playing like an old R580, or something like that where, it just doesn't quite have the stability, the ball speed, all that as new stuff. I think that player is going to see a big improvement with this over probably the old driver that they're playing and hitting some poor shots that aren't horrible swings, but they're not great swings. I think those players are going to notice a big improvement in terms of fairways hit with this Launcher XL. Like I said, especially if holes are downwind, just hit it and it goes high and just goes a long way. Like I said, into the wind, the higher speed players, I think are going to notice a little rise. If you're a high spin guy, you hit down on the ball a little bit, this driver hit's probably not going to be for you, especially in windy conditions, because like I said, I think it's got a little spin to it. It will put a little rise. And if you're that guy who's playing a super high spin guy, this probably isn't going to be your favorite driver, would be my guess. But, if you're a guy who hits up on the ball, needs to hit a little higher and wants a bunch of forgiveness, at a pretty good price, I mean, this thing's going to be hard to beat. Like I said, it's a little loud. Mishits is definitely louder. It's got kind of a little bit of a clank to it, but I think at $400, it's hard to argue and say, hey, I need, you can't expect every single thing to be perfect with it, and that's fine. And I think sound-wise, again, is all preference. I know other people have said the ZX7 is kind of like their favorite sounding driver of all time. For me, it's not quite the thing. Like I kind of like more of like a Sim 2 Max quite sound, TSI 3, things like that. Things are a little more muted, a little more crack. Like ping stuff to me, I don't love. I mean, I love the performance, but I don't love the sound. Where other guys they love everything about it. So sound and feel are going to be kind of up to the player. Feel on it's decent. I wouldn't say that you can feel, like some drivers I know have hit, and you can actually feel like the ball just compress right off the face and go. I don't get that same feeling from this, though the ball speed seemed pretty darn good and the ball goes a long way. I don't feel like you get that type of responsiveness out of the head. But performance-wise, you do seem to get that because, like I said, walking on down to drives down the fairway or just in the rough, distance-wise, it seemed like it pretty much hung with most of the big boy drivers out there, and especially stuff that you struck right in the center and is downwind. That ball's going to go a long, long way. So overall, it's actually a really good driver, and at $399, I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people. I went on their website. I mean, in terms of say custom stuff, you can definitely do the accuracy build. Like I said, no an inch shorter, no counterbalance weight. They do have some some different shafts that you can order with it in terms of custom shafts. They have quite a huge range. There's a handful of stuff that is that is no upcharge. That would be a pretty good, I think this for slightly higher speed guy, whatever, you can get a Tensei CK white. I mean, not a non-pro, but get a white 70 and get it in X and have it an inch short and throw a grip. I mean, it could be a really good value driver out there. So, like I said, the Motori XF3, it performed really well. I think anything out there that, if you need a little more weight, they do offer it in their custom program. But it's a really good head. I think it's a really solid head. I think it's a quality piece. I don't think it's going to get the love that it should get on the shelves, but I think overall it's a really good driver. So the Launcher XL was fun to hit. I thought it was really fun to play with. It'd be kind of fun. Maybe I will toss if the Strixon stuff works, maybe I'll toss a Ventus Black or something like that in there and just see how it goes. But we'll see. Maybe I'll take it out and try something new. So. But overall, like I said, check out, if you go to clevelandgolf.com, you can check out all three drivers. Like I said, I didn't hit the light or the light draw, but the XL is pretty darn good. So I think that's all I've got this week. Hopefully you're going to have a good weekend. I'm going to head down to the cottage. Hopefully I'm playing a little golf. I got 18 at least booked. And then next week I will be, if you haven't followed in the Golf WRX forums, we did kind of a thing with TaylorMade where we picked a couple members. They're heading down to the Kingdom down at Reynolds Plantation. And I get to be the chaperone, so I'm super excited about that. Going to check out the Kingdom there. I've been to the Kingdom out in Carlsbad. It's absolutely insane. It's just a crazy mecca of golf. I'm excited to see what the Reynolds one is like. I bet it's going to be absolutely amazing too. So we're watching guys could do some wedge fitting with Mill Grind 3, which I've been a huge fan of. I really like the wedges that TaylorMade has this year when these guys are going to get fit. And then play some golf, and then might even check out a little bit of the Tour Championship on Wednesday, for the Pro-Am. So I'm not playing or anything, but just going to check it out and be on the ground. So before I fly home. So next week, I may be a little jet lagged for the show, but either way, I have some stuff to talk about. It'll be cool. And then, then we got Labor Day weekend, and summer's almost over. So that's insane. I hate the thought of that. But anyway, everybody have a good day. If you want to hit me up on at Club Junkie Pod. I know I forgot about questions yesterday. It was just a busy day at work. Today may be busy as well, so I don't know if I'll get to it today before league, but we'll see what I can do. Anyway, hopefully you have a good rest of the week. Have a good weekend. Play some golf. And like I said, hit me up on Instagram if you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, at Club Junkie Pod. And we'll talk to you guys next week.